Hello, my name is Sheena Crowley. I'm from the Island of Music. The Island of Music is dedicated to promoting and celebrating the fiercely talented musicians and instrument makers of Ireland. We will be doing a series of interviews online, and to kick that off, the first people are a trad band called Nuadán. So they're here with me. Hello, guys.
Hello.
So can you tell me a bit about how the band formed, Nuadán? What does it stand for, when you started, etc.?
Who wants to go first, lads?
Yeah, sure, you take that one, Pat.
Yourself, you can take this one.
So I suppose the lads and I, so myself, my name is Pax O'Faoláin, and Cork and Macdara, my brothers, we've been playing together since we were younger, and I suppose the band originally had a different lineup, and you know, as bands go, it kind of naturally changed. So the last, is it 4 years, Iarlaith, you're with us now?
I think just over 3, yeah.
Just over 3. I was getting ahead of myself. It's just over 3 years Iarlaith's been with us. And that's kind of how the current lineup was. But I suppose originally Macdara, Cork and I would have been part of a group called Nuadn that won Sheena sa Violin. And that kind of fast-tracked us into the kind of I suppose, band scene. And as it happens, the same year, Iarlaith's band came second. What was it?
Third.
Sorry.
He knew that as well. He just
I did. Yeah. So we kind of knew Iarlaith, like we knew he was a deadly musician. So we needed a substitute from time to time. For the first time was the Oireachtas 3 years ago, and we just kind of said, "On away, do this gig," and it just kind of naturally happened that Iarlaith ended up joining the band. So that's how it happened.
Very good. And Nuadán, is that like translated as new verse, or is there an actual translation to it?
It's kind of like a double meaning. Yeah, I suppose Nuadn is a Celtic god, but I had a mythology book here when we had trouble. We had trouble with the name because some other band was named Nuadn, and they kept sending us hate mail, saying to change the name and all that.
Threatening you.
So Nuadn was related to Fionn McCool. His Fionn McCool's dad, wasn't it?
Grandfather,
yeah. So then Fionn McCool's dad would have been called Nuadán because it means small Nuadn. So and also Nuadán would be kind of like new art form.
Yeah.
So I suppose it just worked. It kind of came out through necessity more than anything, really. But that's the story with that.
Well, yeah, because when I looked at the name, I just literally looked at it, broke it down very simply for me, because I'm not an Irish speaker, unfortunately. I'd love to be, but the 4 of you are actually fluent Irish speakers, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
we don't have much English, but you're right.
And Cárthach, since you're studying Irish, etc., you now the expert where everybody has to go for the, qualifying Irish things.
Well, it's funny, like a degree doesn't actually change how the brothers will see you. They might be still right regardless of what I say. So I don't think it holds too much weight what degree we have. But I suppose with the others, they've studied music, and I wouldn't say I'd give them all the credit either. So I don't think the education does too much to change our brotherly and friendly manners. But that's not a bad thing either.
Yeah. I get that. That's a good thing. Tell me a bit about what you're playing. Like, what do you aim for? And are you playing all old tunes? Are you composing and doing originals, or what's the set usually made up of?
I suppose it's a mix, isn't it? We've kind of, I don't know, we all have individual tastes as well, so we all kind of bring our own preferences to the table in terms of tunes and repertoire. But I suppose in terms of how we play, it's more, I don't know, like Pac said, it kind of happened naturally. I think we just ended up playing at a festival together, and it kind of just started from there. Like I was thinking about it, when we practice, we don't particularly focus on anything in particular. It's kind of just we had a sound and we stuck with that. And then in terms of tunes, there's a mix. Like I tend to stick with, my tune choices tend to be a lot of older recordings and stuff like that, but then we have, on the CD we recorded, we've tunes from that Pax has written, and from other kind of more modern sources as well. So there's a healthy mix there. Like it adds something different to it, having a mix of both. And then we have the lads singing as well, so that brings another element to it.
Oh yeah, because I have to be honest with you, I'm afraid I've only recently become aware of you, you know, so thanks for YouTube for that. But I was delighted, so I subscribed to you, obviously, and everybody should do it because your music, I mean, I was blown away straight away because what impressed me was the kind of ease and the kind of maturity to what you're doing. You're obviously very tight, but like sometimes younger people, they tend towards frenetic more than this quality, whereas your playing is absolutely superb, and I genuinely mean that. Like I know you don't want to hear me going on about how brilliant you are, but
thanks for that.
yeah, no bother. But are you multi-instrumentalist as well?
Yeah, well, I guess we all try on a few instruments, I guess.
Macdara definitely is. Macdara plays about 100 instruments.
I can see a banjo behind you, Dara.
Oh, well, that's well, it is mine, but my girlfriend actually plays that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I don't know. We have loads of instruments in the house, so
Yeah.
I suppose it was just kind of a matter of time before we picked them up. But yeah, I suppose with everything we do, I suppose sometimes I think it's important for us to remember, and we do remember that. I think when you said about other young bands, I think a lot of people just think too much about what they want and what their philosophy of music is. Because I think sometimes the most powerful thing to do is just play and you know just forget about what you want and what anyone else wants. Just see what happens naturally. And I suppose sometimes the multi-instrumental thing comes from that, where it's just we're playing and it might sound like this piano would suit, and I wouldn't be the best piano player in the world, but when there's only 4 people, you kind of have to work with what you got, you know.
Yeah, improvising in that. So you're playing Bouzouki guitar as well, I presume?
I don't play guitar much with the band. No, I have in the past, like now and again, but I have a bass Bouzouki, which kind of is like in the range of a guitar, so it's just easier for me to double track and just create a guitar. But loads of people ask, is that a guitar? But it's not.
And what was I going to ask, Iarlaith, what was it like for you to join a band of brothers? Like, is there language going on there that you have to kind of try and get in on and that kind of thing? Was it fun for you, or
loads of fights?
Bad language.
Yeah, like it's interesting because like I suppose I have to deal with the lads as any band, like it's kind of like a unit, you know, you're working with multiple people, but then I know each of them individually. They're three very different people in their own ways. So I've kind of learned how to deal with, they all have their own personalities. So they each bring something different, but it can lead to hilarious times as well as like absolutely heartbreaking sometimes. But no, like for the most part, it's been great. Like I don't think I wouldn't notice it as you know 3 brothers and then me either. Like I think even in the band we kind of, you know, we're all just great friends at the end of the day. Like, you know, and the 3 lads get on well together, which helps. Like, and sure, you know, anyone can have their off days. Like, you know, I've probably had them as well. Like, but I think as a group, like the 4 of us, we're all kind of very very easygoing, and that's kind of our philosophy. So we just kind of just start playing. I suppose if you're having a bad day, just stop talking and start playing.
That's a good thing. Yeah, definitely therapy in itself. Like so you gelled very well together. And what is for you now? COVID must be impacting a lot because you're very busy. Like you all have lots of brilliant projects going on. But is it heartbreaking to be not really out there expressing yourself and playing like normal?
Well, I think just one of the things that the lads were saying there, like we're all doing different things where despite us being brothers, like we're very different and we do different things. And I think that's good for the band, just as Iarlaith was saying, like we all bring our own thing, and despite coming from the kind of same well, the 3 of us especially, we've all drawn different water. So it's the same with COVID. We've all decided to go different routes, but I think we've managed to kind of stay in touch, and we launched a CD last year, and obviously we had loads of plans for launches. So we launched it about a year ago at the start of November, and we had plans we did one at home in around Christmas time in January, or I can't remember which, but we had plans for all the summer and everything like that. So that was all put to one side. But obviously we understand why everyone's in the same boat. We're not going to be saying that our condition is too exceptional or anything like that. We're all still young and able to deal with it. But I think we're just doing our best to keep going and keep bringing fresh ideas to the table. And I think it's going well. It could be a lot worse, but maybe the most setback that we've encountered is that, as Iarlaith was saying, a lot of the time when and Macdara was saying too, when we're trying to come up with new music, it usually happens in a pub setting or in a session. It's very natural in that way, and we just haven't had that. So we're just trying to go back to perhaps the balance we had before of finding the music in a new way, because we're not meeting each other and at sessions or at festivals where most of the crack happens.
When did you last get together to play? Did you say one of you said that there a while ago? When were you last playing together?
Maureen's was the last gig. I think in Maureen's, just there at the bottom of Shandon there.
That's
in
February,
Cork.
wasn't it?
That was the end of February, yeah. So that was a really, really nice gig, because it was the first time in a long time it was probably the first time ever we'd had a chance to play a concert completely acoustic to less than 40 people. You know, it was just really, really special. And, you know, we had a great night, and big shout out to Maureen and Dennis for hosting us, because it was just an exceptionally good night. And, you know, but, you know, that feels like another lifetime, you know, February.
I know, yeah, it's a weird year.
Yeah.
It's fairly distorted, isn't it? But so you like the intimate gigs, practice to say, are they your preference, or is it just that you take both?
I don't really have a preference, I suppose, but there's definitely something nice when there's a variety coming up, you know, and I suppose it depends on the setting. The reason I was so happy playing in Maureen's, because we had played in the School of Music, because we recorded the album in the School of Music. They very kindly let us use the studio, because Macdara and I studied there, and you know, we played in the Curtis Auditorium, which is amazing, but you're blinded by these lights, and I wasn't even sure who was there or who wasn't until the end. So then people who missed it, like there was a handful of people who missed it who could go to Maureen's in a completely different setting, and we played even different material and stuff. So, you know, I think a combination of both. I love small venues, but big venues can be nice too, you know? Yeah,
of course, I suppose. And do any of you get nervous before a gig or anything like that, or are we well past that stage?
Oh God, we do. I think I get worse.
Really?
I think so, because
you're passionate about it, I suppose.
Yeah, it's because you care about it. I don't see it as a job. I'm not just going in there and doing my quota and leaving again. Like, you want to. I don't think that there's two gigs. I don't know, maybe the lads will disagree with this, but I don't think that there's any two gigs that are the same. I wouldn't think it would be natural if it was. So if your mood is affected by something, the music's going to come out. It might come out better if you're not in the best form, and it might come out worse. We always have expectations of ourselves, and we might do a concert and we're happy, and other people love it and are very thankful and grateful for us, but then after we'd be kind of disappointing, say that didn't really go our way, or I think it's more our own standards. So it's maybe ourselves putting ourselves under pressure, and I think we manage them hopefully as much as we can, but nerves are a part of music. I don't think anyone is born a performer, as much as people say that. Of course, the lads, they've studied music, and Iarlaith's a great solo musician as well, but I think it's just your own standards are important to you, and you want to do your best and show off your music as much as you can, in a way that's natural and not just forced, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody makes a mistake, does anybody get annoyed, or are you all happy with that kind of thing?
Oh, it's all coming out now. All right, like, you know, like within reason, if something was completely out of order, like,
we can talk about it.
You know, it's never a confrontational situation. It's like usually the person knows themselves. Like, you know, I had a gig last year that I won't specify which one, but it was the worst gig I've ever played in my life. And straight away I came off the stage and said, lads, that was rubbish. Sorry, that was just not my A game. And, you know, even if the listener, like the audience is listening and they think, Jesus, they're playing brilliantly, you know yourself. Somebody doesn't really need to tell you if something is bad, unless there's something you've missed. That's the only time maybe we'd point something out.
Yeah. or you're all grand, getting on well with each other. But you're studying and you're playing, and you've got lots of different projects like Cárthach. You're studying law and Irish, and I'd like Iarlaith to say what you're studying again, bio something or other. Say what you're studying.
So bioinformatics and computational biology. So it's a master's course in UCC, but I'm finished now. I was working over the summer as part of the course, doing finishing my thesis and working on my project with a startup company out of UCC. So I've that done. I probably finished maybe a month and a half now, something like that. So I'm free since then, unemployed, and
but there's lots more going on.
Yeah, and the ideal musician.
Yeah. And Pax and Macdara, you were in, like, Macdara, you're still in UC School of Music in Cork, and Pax, you also studied there, is what you were saying there a while ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I studied there. I finished there just over a year ago, and then I went straight on to UCC. So I did the BMUS in CSM, and then I went on to UCC to do a master's in arts management and creative producing. So I just finished that, just same as Iarlaith, about a month and a bit ago. So yeah, kind of tipping away kind of as a freelance artist now at the moment, and doing a few different things, little bit of radio work, little bit of television work, you know, just kind of seeing what comes my way, because I suppose of all years, it's a difficult situation to be leaving college, and like whatever, like I'm not saying anybody is worse than each other, but when you have a course that kind of, in some instances, you have a course that kind of places you almost into a line of work, but when it's the arts, it's really up to yourself. Like, there's a lot of people that would argue that doing a course in the arts is futile, and that it's all about what you make of yourself. And to a degree, I would agree. Like, it's not just enough doing that degree or master's. You have to apply yourself and get to know people and, you know, find your way, because, you know, there's a lot of people that ask me, you know, how are you finding jobs at the moment? I'm just like, it's literally just luck. It's just luck, and people, you know, and you just hear of things popping up, and
you know, come to you. I think when you're before you're a top quality musician, so people will find you, you know, definitely for a different work, and I don't think there's any fear of you at all, really. But yeah. So, Pax, are you the eldest?
Well, Iarlaith is older than me, but I'm the eldest of the three lads. Yeah.
Yeah, of the three lads. Sorry, Iarlaith. It's just because I met you, as I've mentioned a few times on Facebook, I met you years ago in Crowley's Music Centre, and you were a young toddler. So you grew up with music. Your parents promoted it, obviously, for you. Like, and what was it like growing up in Ring in Dungarvan or County Waterford? Will you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, I suppose it's a very musical place, but I think, well, like, yeah, the place probably played into it loads with the likes of Sean and Cleaveen, O'Farrell, and Garrod O'Leary taught us in school, and Bobby Gardner and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I think probably wherever we would have gone, we would have played music. Not necessarily traditional music, but I like, our parents just loved music. And to be honest, anything we took up as kids, we still do. So music was just a part of that. Like, I think we could have become pro surfers if we spent more time surfing instead of playing music. That's just how our parents were. If we did anything, they wanted us to do it as well as we can, but not in a pressurizing way. They just things are more fun when you do them properly, as opposed to kind of doing them half here and half there, you know. So yeah, but Ryan definitely played a huge part in it. The school, there's always lessons in the school, and like I said, Bobby Gardner taught us. And then when we were a little bit older, we went to this guy called Peter O'Connor. He's brothers with Jerry Fiddle O'Connor, and his mother Rose O'Connor was a great teacher. And yeah, I loved Peter. I think, like, so much of my personality, I think, comes from some of the times I spent there.
Yeah.
It wasn't just music either. I think that's always good about the people who we learned music from. Like, we used to, sometimes we just wouldn't play music, we just talk about other things. He got Cork into archery, and so it was never just music. I think what we like about music is just as much relationships as it is just sounds, you know. But
Are you are you bringing tradition forward as well? Like, are you bringing it, starting it and doing all that, bring it into the future? Would you say?
Well, I do think maybe, especially from studying music, that there is a side of, I think, like, especially when it comes to accompaniment, a lot of how people accompany music these days is just based on kind of kind of vaudeville and like common practice period harmony and stuff. Whereas I think once you actually get more into music, I think we'd probably push towards being interested in more kind of different types of music. Like, there's a few tracks in the CD that the harmony might not necessarily be like jazz orientated or whatever, but I think Iarlaith is kind of the same. Like, you would have listened to bands, like, I suppose bands who spent a lot of time producing stuff, such as like the Beatles and different jazz musicians, and Planxty, a good bit. So I suppose we are bringing it back, but I suppose we always think that there was a section of Irish music, like from Planxty and the Batty Band on, that people not necessarily skipped over, but I think there's loads still to be taken from that, really small points that everyone kind of seems to like to forget. But that's a bit of a general statement, so I don't want to say that, but I just did.
Very good. Okay, I want to ask you as well, of course, there's, I'm really interested in instrument making, and in the Island of Music we're promoting that, and I've just discovered that Iarlaith is a flute maker.
Well, starting up anyway. I'm not as far ahead as Macdara, but I've made a few here. I'm in the workshop at the minute. I've made a few, and I probably started maybe a year and a half ago now, but just with college and everything, I was away from home. I didn't really get a good run at it. So since I've been back with COVID, I've kind of had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that. I've one or two made now that I'm kind of happy with. And I suppose my plan for the next year, I'm kind of slowly, I suppose everyone you do, you're finding things, I need this bit of equipment, I need something else.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just getting an idea of what I need at the minute, but I'm kind of happy with where I am at the minute, but I'm not as far ahead as Macdara. I wouldn't be willing to I'm kind of hoping maybe in the next while that I might be ready to start actually producing something. Proper for
what is flute you play yourself? I mean, I was listening to you and I found your instruments are, like, I definitely think you're all playing really quality instruments. I could pick up the instruments distinctly. So who made your flute that you're actually playing, Iarlaith?
So I've a good few different flutes on the album. I've everything from F up to C as well. But
yeah,
my D flute, like my common session flute, is a Ruddle and Rose flute. Right. So from about 1834. So it's not I wouldn't have the most typical kind of taste in flutes for the modern player. I think the modern player kind of tends to go for a louder, just sort of boomier sound of a flute, big holes, big bore. But that kind of flute that I play is what I would associate with the recordings that I like to listen to of flute players.
Yeah.
So most of the old flute players like would have played flutes like that, and they would have been the top quality instruments of the time. So that's where my interest lies, and the type of flutes I want to make are more along those lines. Still plenty loud for a session and plenty loud to play with a band, like, but there's a kind of a quality to them, more rounded sound, sort of deeper tone to them than the others, which just kind of very monotonal to me sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm exploring at the minute, but I tend to focus on older flutes.
Yeah. All right, cool. And Cárthach, do you play? I've seen you play Apollo soprano and a few other instruments. What are you mainly playing? What's the one you love?
That's a good question. It's a bit of a sad story. I was in the States a few years ago, and unfortunately my accordion grew legs, and it hasn't been seen since. I picked up another nice 3-voice Honer that I'm playing at the moment, but I'm actually just after ordering a Manfrini accordion. So I was very similar to Iarlaith. I'm loving the old sound, and I love that kind of old quality, and I liked, as I said, driving the vintage cars, but sometimes the vintage cars just don't do what you want them to do. And especially when you're in a band setting, I think some of the accordions that I play. I haven't spent a lot of money on fixing them up yet. I am still a student. Some people think that if you're kind of in a so-called semi-professional band, as other people have told us, that we're making millions and spend billions on instruments, but Macdara makes his own. Iarlaith's on the way to do there. Pax has good friends in the fiddle scene, but he'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I'm just after kind of splashing out now after graduating on a Manfrini accordion from with the help of Derek Hickey. So he's pointed me, and I think they're kind of the new wave of accordions of high quality, because I think after I'd say I'd push it maybe to the 70s, how the sopranis were being made well, and then like any other mass-produced instruments, the quality has fallen. So people still love the old thing, but I'm just hoping that this Manfrini will live up to the expectation of the old Paolo Soprani I had years ago.
Yeah, I'd say it will. Like, I mean, that would be beautiful. But and of course, Pax, I have to ask you about the violin you play. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, so interesting story. So I actually first came across, I was kind of putting off getting a violin for a few years because I had just asked Haruaki Saito, a friend of ours, Haru, if he'd renovate or repair an old violin that was in the family, and I played that for a year and I got great fun out of it, but it's still a factory made instrument, so I wasn't really getting as much out of it. So I started kind of shopping around, and at around the same time Macdara got a loan of this beautiful instrument that I now have from Haru to play in the Bánór Ceann Riada competition in Rochestown, and Macdara was playing it for weeks, and at the time I was kind of like, yeah, it's nice, didn't really pay much attention to it, and then I played it myself a few times and I was like, oh god, this is lovely. And I forgot about it, and I went to Hugo Vector's shop, and I kind of went, I'm kind of like this, I have to discipline myself, and I went with a budget and I said, look, this is what I can afford and I'm not going over that. And I went to David Power's place in Waterford, and he has like one of the finest collections of violins, and I went to Hugo's, and in the end Haru and I came to an agreement over the one that he had, and he very kindly, you know, reduced the price because he knew I really just had fallen for this instrument and nothing I played was living up to it. So you know, it's as Cork pointed out, you know, I do have great friends, and I have to give Haru credit. Like, he is so generous with his knowledge, and you know, as in fairness, all of the violin people in Cork are the violin repair shops, like Hugo Vector and Ian Nepper. They're just all salt of the earth people. You know, anyone I've come across, they're so generous with their information, and you know, they'll always try and cut you a deal if they can at all. You know, if you're loyal to them, you know. And I think that's something that customers forget. It's not just up for the shopkeeper to be fair to you. You have to be fair to them. You know.
That's the point.
So,
and they love what they do so much too. They can't help themselves but give, I think, you know.
Exactly.
You know.
So I got lucky, and that violin is about 200 years old, roughly speaking. And you know, it's Haru pulled it out of a skip. It was going to be in the bin when he was in Japan, and he brought it over to Ireland, and it was his violin, and eventually sold it to me. So, still play it every day. I love it more every day. Like, so.
Yeah, very good. And Macdara, we know what you play anyway. One of your Bouzouki's, yeah.
Yeah. I suppose I played the first Bouzouki I was kind of happy with. I finished one since I finished that like a few years ago. I can't remember, 2018, I think. But I finished two recently, and they're probably technically better. But I think as an instrument maker, it's nice to play an instrument you made a while back, because it gets very frustrating if you're constantly playing new ones, because they're great and they sound nice. And I suppose I was playing one that I finished recently, and it's going to a guy in America, but I just have to hold on to it because of the whole pandemic. I'm just waiting to ship it till things are a bit safer and stuff. But I suppose, although I enjoy playing it, and I can tell that it's probably a better Bouzouki, I think sometimes the journey of learning to play an instrument that's been made for you and getting to know an instrument isn't something you want to do every year, you know. So I like the way my Bouzouki is actually kind of played in a bit, as opposed to, there are some makers who constantly play new ones, but myself and Ian Nepper were talking about this the other day, and they say that all instrument makers are insane, but I think it maybe helps you be a little bit less insane if you just take one and just play it and just forget what you don't like about it, you know.
What age were you when you started? You were very young, I think, were you?
Yeah, I can't remember. I think I was like 14 or 15. I went to Paul Doyle's, but I did a course with him. I made a ukulele, and I made a ukulele at school at the same time. And the one I made with him is in this room somewhere actually, but it came across out okay. But the one at school was awful. But then I went home and I made a few more awful instruments, because you still, whatever course you make in instrument making, you'd still make an awful instrument afterwards. I think you need to like learn stuff yourself.
Yeah.
But then I made my first Bouzouki, I think, when I was like 16. It was all ukuleles before that. Maybe I was 17. I can't really remember. But I was with Ian Nepper in Cork, and we kind of, I was doing work experience with him, but instead of working on violins, he said I should just work on Bouzouki's, and he'd just help me whenever he could.
Wow.
So I made that first Bouzouki, and then I made one after that for charity, and then that's the third one I made. And there's been 3 or 4 instruments since. So I just, like I said, I just like to keep holding that one because it's kind of the prototype, I guess. So if anyone ever asks as well what one of mine are like, all the plans are made of this one, so it's just handy to keep that one as well, you know.
Are you finding it hard to get woods, and do you do your best to source them locally, or how are you with that?
I'm actually really lucky. I sometimes buy wood and then I get a call like 3 days later saying, like, I bought wood last time, and then I got a call saying, could I have did I want some bog yew? So the last few instruments I made was from like 5,000-year-old bog yew, and then I just bought wood recently, and Hugo Vector gave me maple that he bought for a guitar years ago, but he never got around to making. So I don't know, maybe people think I'm a charity or something, but I just get given loads of wood, which is great. I didn't pay for one bit of wood for my own Bouzouki.
Oh, geez.
Because everyone was just like, oh, I have loads of wood, take it.
Wow.
So Sean O'Farrell gave me the wood for that. I think I had to buy the top, but yeah, I actually don't have to buy wood that often. So I'm very lucky. I suppose, Ulton Walsh is a friend of mine, and he sometimes disregards tops, but I kind of like tops with mad grain and stuff. So sometimes if he doesn't like them, he doesn't want, he was just gonna like use them for scraps and stuff, so he just gives them to me. So I go through them, and this only happened once, but I went through them, and then I gave stuff that was definitely unusable to Hugo for repairs, and then I kept some stuff for mandolins and stuff that are smaller, because he mostly makes Bouzoukis. So it's kind of a nice network there in Cork. We're all just kind of throwing wood.
You're all connected. That's brilliant. And I suppose, Iarlaith, is it getting hard for you to get blackwood and stuff like that, is it?
Yeah, well, there's a few of the woods now, like it's, I suppose, with CITES and this, and woods starting to go endangered or extinct, it's becoming the typical woods that you would see flutes being made out of, either African blackwood, or a lot of my flutes of the older types are made out of cocos wood, which is kind of a flute that a lot of flute players would favor, or wood that a lot of flute players would favor, but very hard to get them anymore. You need to source stock that's been cut down maybe years ago, and then you need to wait for that wood to dry and everything. But it depends what you're looking for as well. Like my dad makes pipes as well, makes pipes, so he uses a few different types of wood. Like he'd use maybe maple and different bits like that for stocks and things. But generally with the woods at the minute, I'm sticking with, I have some blackwood, I have some Mopani wood is a new wood, which I have a few flutes that are made out of that, but I'm starting to use that too. Bit cheaper than blackwood at the minute, but it's I kind of think it's maybe an alternative to cocos wood. Kind of, I find there's different tones off the woods, but some flute makers would disagree with me on that.
Oh, no, there is, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think there is, and I think it's maybe an alternative to cocos wood that at the minute is still feasible to buy.
Yeah, you're happy enough. Yeah, very good. Well, guys, I really love talking to you, and normally we would have a format where we'd have a group playing together, and because of this pandemic situation, we couldn't do that. But I'd like, if maybe Macdara, do you have an instrument nearby?
Yeah, I have that Bouzouki I was on about there.
Oh, cool. Would you just play a few tunes?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, 2 seconds.
Cool. And before we start, maybe I just want to ask, the name of the album is Cárthach. What's the name of the album?
Dain Diwal. So Dain Diwal is how it's spelled, which means what harm. So you'll find it on Bandcamp for digital, or a hard copy we'll send out to you. And to be honest, it's not that hard to find if you find us on the Facebook page, or there's a few links on YouTube as well. If you look up NUAD or NUADA for the N, you should come across a few things if anyone's interested or kind enough to donate, because we need to buy Christmas presents for the band.
Well, actually, if you wanted to, we can set you up with a profile on the Island of Music, and we can sell your album. We charge 15% commission, but we also will attach a PayPal link or a Ko-fi icon so that people do contribute, you know, because I'm trying to encourage people to support the musicians as much as possible, considering what's been going on. But if you want to do that, give me a shout and we'll set you up. So anyway, Dain Diwal. In my mind, that was doing the devil, my interpretation.
Yeah, it's our local way to say what harm. So Diwal is damage, but it's very close to the word for devil.
Yeah.
It's what harm.
Yeah,
It's a very, very funny catchphrase from home. Which a lot of just stories go with it. So we had kind of some fun picking out names and things like that. But at the end of the day, the music on the CD is just what we did back then, and that what we do in concerts. And it's there's no rocket science in it. It's just how we like it, and we hope other people like it too. That's what we really want anyway. So.
Oh, for sure. I say everybody would like it. Anyway, we'll have Macdara play a few tunes there if you can.
I'll just play a slow piece, if that's cool, called Down the Hill. And I learned this from Shane Meehan, who lives in Cork as well. So this is a very Cork conversation. Up to dubs.
We're in the final.
really beautiful. That's really, really, really lovely.
Thank you.
And your instrument comes across really well as well. It cuts through, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, the fingers are a bit cold up here, so there was a few fluff notes, but I'm happy enough with it. Yeah, it's I suppose it's maple, so it's kind of bright.
Yeah.
I suppose cedar and maple is a bit of an unusual combination, but I like kind of doing that because everyone likes to characterize wood by like, oh well, maple is bright, but it lacks this or something. So I just kind of decided to take what people like about cedar and put it with the wood that what people say that cedar lacks, because maple is very punchy but cedar is very warm. So I tried it and it worked, and I made a few instruments like that since. So I don't know, I don't see that combination a lot, but I think any combination really works if you put enough effort into the voicings and all that, you know.
Yeah, true. And do any of the rest of you want to play an instrument? Have you anything just sitting just there?
Nothing tuned up.
All right, okay. I don't want to put you in the spot. It's just
maybe Iarlaith, you know.
Iarlaith, do you want to play?
I don't mind.
If you're comfortable to, just maybe we get one tune out of
Yeah,
it.
sure. I have one of the flutes I've made here now.
Yeah, love to hear it. Wow.
Don't judge me. I'm not like the maestro Macdara here, you know.
Yeah, well,
Not at all.
I'm sure you're getting there.
I hope you're playing it slightly warmer. I had a few shivers there during this.
Yeah, I'm a bit cold as well. I blame it on that.
Yeah.
This flute's probably in, I don't know, F sharp minor or something. It's that cold now.
Thanks, you're very good, Iarlaith. Brilliant.
Lovely.
Well, if that sounds great, doesn't it? And I mean, obviously, you're going to be flying making flutes, I'd say.
Hopefully it'll be a bit better than that one anyway. It's a bit rough.
That sounds great.
I think if you ever need us to sell it for you or anything, give me a shout. Anyway, guys, you're all fantastic. Great to chat with. I could go on with you forever. I intended this to be like a 20-minute thing kind of thing, but I've gone well over that. Anyway, so I'm glad. Thanks a million for coming and chatting with me, okay?
Thanks for having us.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.